Someone's moving it all around.
Good morning. It is September 9, and it's Tuesday. Planning and Policy Committee call to order. First on the agenda is public comment. This time is, you can do a public comment and then please keep it to 3 minutes and state your name and address. Is there any public comment at this time? Any online? Perfect. Move on to the approval agenda. Oh,
Excuse me.
sorry. You can talk now, yes.
It's my understanding that there was a public comment.
Yeah, just state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
I'm Jim Kuiper. I am a precinct delegate, and I'm here to talk about to the commissioner meeting about the administrator's position. Am I out of line to do that now?
No, public comment.
Thank you. I've been a resident of Ottawa County for 50 years, and throughout those years, we've enjoyed wonderful leadership in our county. And I want to be sure that the commissioners focus their attention on picking the right person. We'd like to see the county go forward rather than backward. And I think some of you know what I'm talking about. And with that, I'm going to end my comments for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuiper. Any other public comments? And then move on. Approve of agenda.
So moved.
Support. Motion made and supported. All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the minutes of August 2025 Planning Policy Committee meetings. There's motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Move on to the agenda and action items. And the first action is the Lakeshore Region Entity Oversight Policy Board. And the motion is to approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners the updated intergovernment agreement with the Lakeshore Regional Entity continuing the Substance Use Oversight Policy Board through December 31, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and supported. Discussion. Comments.
Just a quick, missed it when I sent an email of some questions to Administrator Rosema over the weekend. And I guess just one thing I would like to know is if there's any changes to this agreement from the past agreement that we had. And if so, if we could just be in the know on what those changes are.
No, this is more of a formality that we got to do, and what I understand, it's the same as it has been.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Same. Number 2, the Land Bank Authority bylaws, and the motion is to approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners the updated Ottawa County Land Bank Authority bylaws.
So moved.
Support. Motion made and supported. Any discussion on this? Pretty explanatory, so questions? Go ahead. Yeah.
So, the committee, the Land Bank Committee, has looked at these bylaws and went through them. Cheryl Clark has been amazing on this, so this has fully been vetted by the committee, just for your information.
Thank you, John. Questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Sure, Sylvia.
So on page 36 of the packet, I have two questions on these bylaw changes. One are 3.5 vacancies. It says the directors shall screen all applicants and submit the names for selection to the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners. So I guess my question on that is, are they going to be submitting all the names to us? In essence, are they taking away our ability to make that choice by narrowing down that field? Because I believe all the names, or I would wish that all the names would come to the commission. Certainly, they can give their recommendations to us, but I don't personally want to see that narrowed down.
Sylvia, what bullet point was that? I'm sorry.
So it's on page 36 of the packet. It's
3.5?
under 3.5. Yeah. So in red there. like, I don't have a problem with them screening them and submitting the names, but I don't know if that just means they're submitting, only the names they want. Those are some clarification on that.
I see Ron feverishly looking over there. Is this one of those statute things where the statute says one thing and we've been doing the other, or is this?
I'm not aware of that issue. I
Okay.
know that our litigation attorney has gone through this thing twice, and I really cannot respond to that without.
So I guess maybe if we could look at that between now and the board meeting and see if, is that an issue where statutorily the Board of Commissioners is making that appointment? And if so, I wouldn't want to see that narrowed down before it came to us. And then I had one other question too, and that is, on page, I guess maybe it's at the end of page 36 and into 37, under regular meetings, there's a change. The meetings of the Board of Directors is changed from shall be public to should be public. And the notice of such meetings should be provided to the public. And that's really a legal change. Shall usually means legally you're obligated to, and should means, well, maybe you may, or maybe you may not. And I think we should always err on the side of transparency. So I don't really want to see these meetings closed to the public, because this kind of takes away our responsibility to make sure that they're open. So I don't agree with that change. So I would move that particular change be struck, that we continue to have those meetings be open to the public and keep the word shall instead of inserting should.
I have no problem. Gary, you see any problem with that, or you want to look into that?
Yeah, I think we can take a look at that. I know the appointment process historically has been the clerk's responsibility, and they would, recommend to the board. So again, I think we can adjust that as we move forward too.
Good.
Yeah,
Did you
so-
make a motion, Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I second your motion.
More discussion on it?
I'm gonna say, I don't have a problem with them. I'm actually reading on in that sentence and the next, or that section, the next paragraph, or next sentence in that paragraph says, notice of all meetings of the Board of Directors shall be given in accordance with the Open Meetings Act.
Mhm.
Almost seems like that's the only line you need, but I don't want to get into too much. I don't mind the change you proposed at all.
Yeah, and that's where it's, inconsistent, is
Yeah.
kind of alluding to,
Yep.
to one, but making it loose, so.
Could you restate your motion, please?
Yeah, so my motion would be to keep the original language on the first, okay, let me see how I can make this clean.
Just get rid of the,
Get rid of the word should and go back to shall be public. And then also,
the should be.
and strike the should be.
All clear on that?
Yeah.
I do know that this was discussed between litigation counsel and sheriff. I do know that, and I do know there are reasons for that. I'm not able to speak on what that is. Cheryl was here, she could probably address that, but I guess I propose, rather than make changes, that we be permitted an opportunity to have that and prepared it, and we can answer those questions, I think, probably at the board meeting. That we can't really do it today, it doesn't look like, without them being.
Okay, so then I'll withdraw my motion, and I actually would ask that this be tabled until next month, policy and planning
That's
meeting, so that it can be worked through, and then we can, instead of, fast tracking it, let's get it right.
I second
I
that.
would support that too.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any particular reason why the bylaws have to be formed and signed today. And we have a couple questions, so let's get the answers and bring it back.
Thank you.
You seconded it?
From us.
Allison did.
One quick comment. Yeah, I'm fine with tabling it. I will say, being on land bank in the past, we did talk about bylaws quite a bit, and there has been kind of a long running effort to clean them up. So I support, what needs to happen, and I think Cheryl's driving the changes. So I support that. And making sure that the language is clean and that the meeting shall be open to the public is great.
All in favor of tabling it till next planning policy, say aye.
Aye.
Same. All right. Thank you, Sylvia.
Yep.
Move on to number 3 in the Commissioner's expense and mileage suggested motion is to approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners recommendation to discontinue Commissioner expense and mileage policy and recommend the use employee purchasing and mileage policies.
Support?
Motion made and supported. Gary.
To just give you a little bit of background, the policy committee that we have set up with various department heads and so that are on the committee typically goes over policies, and tries to keep them updated. This is one of the items that was decided to review, get it in sync where we believe it should be. It allows for taking a little look at not only this, but the mileage and some things. So it was something that we believed was time to take a look at, that you all should have an opportunity to chime in. So that's where this came from. The language that we're looking at, I think speaks for itself. And again, I guess we entertain questions or concerns that.
Doug.
Yeah, what if you could just talk in broad terms what what this action would accomplish?
Sorry, I did not.
So the proposal is to discontinue the commissioner expense and mileage policy. Can you just tell us why we're doing that and what that would accomplish?
Yeah, I guess Regina, who sits on that committee.
It's just my understanding. I think this would just be to clean up the policies. Right now, this policy doesn't fully align with the employee expense and mileage policy. So I think the hope was just to kind of move that direction.
So basically, this policy would have the commissioners in place of take the place of employees as far as mileage and
Yeah,
expenses.
yep. So you would just follow the employee mileage.
So
and-
when it comes to mileage, I was kind of slightly confused maybe about what is the policy on mileage for commissioners?
Think-
Or what would be the policy, because it seems as if there's two different options there.
I don't want to speak too much to the actual details of like the mileage policy and things. I'm more of the clerical function.
Right.
I know mileage policy is the next item on here, and I think we have.
Right, so we're getting rid of the current policy and hopefully are likely adopting that. But it'd be nice to know what that policy actually
Sure.
means for us, right? Before we actually discontinue the existing
Sure,
policy.
yeah. I think this is truly just to align and not have two kind of contradictory policies, I suppose.
How do you
But
mean,
this would-
how do you mean contradict? I don't want to put you on the stand because I know that you didn't write this.
Right.
And I think it'd be preferable, just like on the land bank, to have the person who actually wrote it in front of us. But it does seem as if the mileage policy is proposing two different solutions for us. The way I read the mileage policy, it gets rid of the reporting aspect of mileage, because there's no stipulation that we would be reporting it to the finance committee any longer.
I'd be happy to add in a little bit. It seems to me that as I read through all this, I was a little confused as well. But it looks like if the commissioner mileage and expense policy is eliminated, then that separate policy is eliminated. The franking privileges are eliminated. The newspaper subscription thing is eliminated, which I fully support. And then the next one on the agenda about the actual mileage policy, we have a couple options of how to handle mileage. So there's a recommended one that commissioners are still reimbursed mileage. The change is that the reimbursement would be considered taxable income. So I'm not sure exactly why that is. I mean, that's maybe neither here nor there. Maybe it needs to do that for some IRS reason, but I think the net result is one policy that's very similar to what we have now. Is that right?
Right, and that's for on the recommended side of the mileage, that's how I read it too. Both
Okay.
intra and inter-county, there's no
Yes.
change according to the recommendation, just with a taxable aspect to it. But we are
Yeah.
removing the reporting aspect of it, is that correct?
I believe you would then be included in I think it's the accounts payable list, such as employees are listed.
So we no longer have the statement of review.
Right, it would be a different format. Karen, do you wanna?
And again,
There's still a reporting requirement. I mean, you're still going to submit mileage.
Yeah.
We wouldn't
It-
submit it to the finance committee.
Correct. There's not going to be that at the finance
Okay.
committee.
So at the finance committee, my understanding is that we approve each other's mileage, and if there's any discrepancy, then we point that out. That's never happened in my time on the board. But going forward, that aspect would disappear, and that staff would be doing that, having that approval role. Is that correct or no?
And then it would be publicly noted.
Well, it'd be in the
The
accounts
totals.
payables as mileage, but it would no longer be corresponding to any particular commissioner, right? So in 2012, we got rid of per diems and left mileage. Per diems and mileage were in the statement of review. Going forward, there would be no statement of review. It would simply be staff approving our mileage and not ourselves approving our own mileage.
It'd still be approving the finance, which would be on there, so it
Yeah.
doesn't make no difference.
It'd probably have our names too, I would assume, like, you know,
Your names would be listed
Yeah.
In the accounts
in
payable.
total, correct, in the total mileage paid, your name and the total mileage paid,
So in
but
the,
not each trip, I suppose.
so in accounts payable, it would show mileage, Commissioner Zylstra, mileage, Commissioner Kyers, mileage, Commissioner Moth
It shows your name and the total paid,
for mileage.
the name and the total paid. So if you received another payment that time, it would show the total. So if,
I'm so confused. So what Phil is saying is that it would say Commissioner Zylstra mileage, August.
it just shows the vendor name.
just the vendor name and the amount paid.
Yeah.
The
So
vendor name would read how?
Probably
Zylstra,
first name. last name.
Zylstra, Doug,
Yeah.
something like that.
That's the only indication that the public would have as to what that payment was for.
Yes,
Yes. So we wouldn't have individual
trips,
trips listed. It would just be one single number
yes.
as to what mileage. What is the rationale on that?
The rationale is that the detail is there and
But the
um,
details, we're actually moving away from further detail, and we're just having the one number as opposed to the detailed number, expenses, right?
Could I add a little more? I mean, the numbers are usually pretty low and they're relatively consistent. So and the detail is available to the public. If someone has a question or a concern, they could FOIA the
Okay.
documents. So I'm not too concerned about the change in general, unless the board has a different
I think
take on
it's
it.
more of the tax implications that we're looking at here.
I think so too, but
Commissioner Meaden.
Okay, I actually have concerns about the proposed changes. I think it has been very helpful for our general public to understand what some of the events are that we attend as commissioners, and they do show up currently in the way that we're doing it. I do appreciate the transparency that we currently have. And so I do think that this is moving away from that. I also have concerns for the actual reason behind the changes on the policy. I don't think we've been given an answer to that today. And so I'm wanting to know what changes, besides what we just heard, that are on there, because what I'm seeing with the next policy coming up, and the two are really needing to be looked at together right now, is potentially taking away current monies given to commissioners for expenses for mileage. It's not just about the tax IRS. So if you read in the second policy, let's see if I can find the page. If you took a look at page 50, currently we are reimbursed travel to and from work. And if you read on here, because we are going to be put underneath the same umbrella as the staff, it says, consistent with IRS regulations, travel to and from the employee's work location at a county building is not considered reimbursable mileage. And so currently, we have a policy that does allow for that privilege for the commissioners. And so what I'm seeing is that's a pretty big change.
I'm looking at a different way. Our place of work is our district and our home, not the county building. And
Okay.
that's the way I look at it. And I'll continue to look at it. So I would still pay mileage from our home to where we go.
There's one other piece too. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, go ahead.
I think essentially, if you go down to page 52, the recommended language in there is an override to specifically clarify the broad employee policy at the top, which Commissioner Miedema just reviewed. But page 52 is clarifying that commissioners traveling within the county and county business, even coming here or, going to a constituent meeting or whatever you have, it's still reimbursable mileage. It's just going to be treated as taxable.
Correct.
I'm okay with that personally, although I would love to hear
I don't
the
agree.
detail behind the taxable part.
I don't agree. I'm tracking what Allison said here. So on page 50, that line that Allison quoted, consistent with IRS regulations,
Mhm.
travel to and from an employee's work location is not reimbursable, right? All right. And
Right.
so, and I just want to make sure we understand what we're looking at here. So what this policy is doing is defining the board as employees of the county. And so at that first line, it says, as employees, we are not entitled to reimbursement for miles until we get to work, which is here, all right? Then you go to page 51, and this is where, no matter how you look at it, there's an inconsistency or an ambiguity in my mind. In that recommendation line, it says traveling within the county, right? Joe, you just said that you interpret that to mean to and from the office or, well,
Right.
if it's true that what you intend, then that conflicts with the first sentence of the paragraph on the first page, right?
Yes, yeah,
It
that's
is
true.
listed as an exception though, so does that change the
it-
matter?
That's what I was assuming, that the exception was an override. But you're right, John, I agree. It is a little
It does conflict with. each other.
confusing.
It just creates a little confusion, right?
Yep.
Whereas if the alternative language is used, right, then that would be absolutely consistent with the first line that says, nobody gets reimbursed until you get to the office, and then go from the office, right? That is the
Yeah.
standard under the Fair Labor Standards Act for overtime, right? You got to get to the office
Mhm.
and move from the office in order to get overtime as you travel, right? That's just how the law works on this. Mileage is a little different, right? But I'm
Yep.
looking at this and saying, I see an inconsistency that should be buttoned up just in the legal document, right? But the issue that Allison raised about, okay, what do we want, right? Should there be a mileage reimbursement from your home, even to the office, let alone to another location, right? Should that be changed from what it is today? So we have two things going here.
And my thoughts on it is that it should not be changed. And the reason for that is, as you all know, we went through quite the commissioner compensation fiasco. You know this last year. And the compensation for commissioners is ridiculous. And it's that way statewide. It's a problem. And the reason there's a problem is because commissioners are statutorily responsible for setting their own pay. And so no one is ever brave enough to up the pay of commissioners to what it should actually be to compensate for the amount of hours it actually takes to do the work. And it, has a lot of ramifications of, disqualifying people from being able to be commissioners because they can't afford to be commissioners. And I could go on and on and on. And this is a problem in almost every county in this state. And so, the issue of compensating commissioners for mileage is just a little thing to make that situation a tiny bit better. So I don't think at all that it's necessary to have our mileage be consistent with every other employee, because we do a good, serious job of making sure our other employees are compensated well, and that is not the case for commissioners. And so I think it's perfectly acceptable for us to have a slightly different mileage policy.
How do we clean up the little inconsistency here then? How do we?
I would say first we got to decide what we want,
Well,
right?
yeah,
And then we can move on to the document or policy after that.
from my perspective, and then we'll go to Ron for a second. We office from our homes. Us commissioners do not keep office hours here.
Right.
So we end up going to all of our meetings from our home.
Mhm.
You have a home office. I've been to many of your offices. That's where we operate from. We come here for meetings, just like we go to our policy board meetings and other meetings around the county. So to me, I think it should just be defined for commissioners that commissioners don't office at Fillmore. We office from our homes. That's
Pretty simple.
I agree.
Actually, Commissioner Bonema, you absolutely hit the issue. I'm partly responsible for this, and I'll take the arrows if I need to, but the problem is there is confusion as to where the office is.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for the county to ascertain what to do under those circumstances. So my thought was, let's just make it taxable. Then we don't have a problem with the IRS at least. And be more liberal on any kind of travel that you do in county business would be reimbursable but taxable. So that's where we came up with this. Now, alternatively, you could agree on where the office is, and we could treat you the same way we do every other employee. That's up to you, but that's the genesis of this.
So it sounds like we could remove the recommended line and adjust the alternative line that just says a commissioner's home is considered their work location. And that would solve it all.
Well, it would solve it in your mind, but it might not solve it in the discretion of the IRS. That's the problem.
Okay.
And we had a member of fiscal staff who is an expert in that area at our committee, and that's why we came up with, or maybe I suggested, this alternative of making it taxable.
Shouldn't it be non-taxable reimbursement though, in general?
If you're commuting,
Mhm.
that would be taxable if you're paid. If you're not commuting, then it's not taxable. And so we're saying, let's let you be reimbursed for commuting, but it has to be taxable under IRS guidelines. Let's just make it all taxable. You're not talking about a big difference in the net reimbursement. You know, taxes are taken out, but there's still substantial reimbursement.
Mhm.
And it's much, much easier for the county if you do it that way.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I guess the biggest thing would have been is to flip these two requests around, because we knew that, the discussion on mileage was probably going to overtake anything else. Like Ron indicated, Myra's here from Fiscal Service. She is what we consider.
The expert. I was going to just introduce,
Expert.
this is Myra Ocasio. She's the Assistant Fiscal Services Director, and she did a lot of work on this policy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert, but we did do a lot of research on it. So I think the first issue is deciding if you want to have your own policy versus the employee policy. Because if you want to have your own policy, then some of this discussion doesn't even need to be had. The IRS policy or publication is if you're driving to your work location, then that's considered commuting and it is not deductible. So if the county decides to reimburse you for it, then it should be taxable. If you decide that the building is your work location, if you say, like you mentioned before, you have home offices, that's another stipulation then to make, which the IRS addresses that as well, kind of deciding and notating, we have a home office and this is where 100% of our administrative work is completed, and you all agree and sign off on that, then that would be considered your work location.
So Myra, if under the IRS regulations that you're referring to, you're saying that there's a regulation that says if your office is your home, then mileage from there is not taxable.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
What have other municipalities done